Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Disaster Preparedness App 2.0 webinar. My name is Courtney, and today is April 20th. We're going to take an hour, maybe a little less, just to cover some of the updates we've made to the DP app in the last few months. It's been around since 2015, so this is kind of its latest overhaul. We made some updates, some new categories, and so we're going to cover all of that. So Matt Bryant, he is going to kind of introduce us since he has some history with the project. So let me get started here. And oops, yes, okay.
So good morning. As I said before, and I don't know if the mic was quite working when we got our start there, but my name is Matt Bryant, and I'm the digital content editor with CAHF. Back in 2015, CAHF applied for a grant with an idea of creating a disaster app that would provide utility to skilled nursing facilities and their needs in the event of any number of disaster events. When we think about disaster, we think probably more about the Irving Allen movies, the Towering Inferno or Earthquake, that type of stuff. But disaster is it seems that we run the gamut here in California between fires and floods and all sorts of acts of God and man. So the vision for this was put forth, and the idea was to use technology and develop something that was customizable and useful to our members and other skilled nursing facilities. It was funded by the ASAE Foundation, which is backed by SunTrust Bank. And at some point early in 2015, we connected, after being awarded the grant, we connected with a development partner up in the Pacific Northwest by the name of Illuminage. And they had done some other work in our business vertical. And so when we approached them with this idea, they already had some groundwork laid and were somewhat familiar with the industry, with the skilled nursing profession. And so over the course of about six to 8 months, the platform was built, and then we rolled it out the fall of 2015 at CAHF's annual convention and expo. And then I spent probably the next 6 months going and speaking to a number of our CAHF chapters throughout the state, sort of evangelizing the idea and getting the ball rolling with this. And in the process, we won a few awards, and the project was met with a great deal of buzz.
If you type in this URL onto your computer, it will bring up a website. And so the app itself is a website that you can access from your computer, from your tablet, and your phone. And then later on in the presentation, we'll show you how to actually bookmark the website onto your iPhone or your Android. So if you haven't already pulled up this website on your computer that you're watching our webinar on, or whatever device you want, go ahead and do that now. And then we will kind of give a rundown of how the app itself is actually going to function. So there's two sides to the app. On the left, you'll see a screenshot of the page. If you are not logged in, you can still access the resource library that CAHF has kind of curated over the last 10 or 12 years. And you can find things set up by emergency event, whether you need to find something to respond, or if you're looking for something related to evacuation, there's tons of different categories to use the information that's on there. And then once you've created an account, you'll see the page on the right-hand side here titled Facility Resources. And if you haven't uploaded anything yet, you won't see some of these blue category titles yet. But when you go to add the resource, there'll be a drop-down menu for you to choose your category from, and then it'll start populating some of these different titles that you see there. So again, the preloaded information on there that is all just resources for you. We've collected them from different states around the nation. Some of the documents might be older. Those are like sample policies and procedures, or even just reports on actual disaster events and the response that went on. There's all sorts of stuff on there. And then also kind of a little bonus is this Twitter feed on there. It's preloaded with accounts that Matt Bryant here has followed for you, accounts like the State Office of Emergency Services, CAL FIRE. So if you're looking to start your own kind of social media or like public information officer role, that's a great place to start, just to try and get plugged into that larger picture there.
And it's probably there was a great deal of confidence because there are all sorts of agencies statewide and then on a much more regional and local level. We've only put the statewide stuff in because it's the most relevant to the most members of our user base. But that doesn't preclude you from having your own Twitter feed that's pertinent to your very specific local and regional needs and agency.
Right. So in California, the response structure is set up by county. So when you look at the e-tags from the regulations and it says collaborating with your local response partners, it's a good place to start with your city planner's office, your city office of emergency services, but then also reach out to public health at the county level, because that is where you'll find the resources that will complement all of your emergency operation plans that you would be loading onto the DP app. And you can also get that county contact information on this app as well. We have it already loaded onto our website, which is CAHFdisasterprep.com. That's a separate website, so I won't get too much into that. But again, state and regional contact information is on there, on the DP app as well. And let's go to the next slide. There we go. Okay. Again, so once you have created your account, this is the screen that you will see. And we're going to go more into detail about the read-only account that goes with your account. But when you see that add resource button, that's how you know that you are logged in and that you are on the account where you can actually upload and edit resources. And that is the password that you will want to keep with your administrator or whoever you really trust to maintain your operations plan, and keep it updated with your staff as well. And let's see here. So local government, that would be a good place to store those contacts we were just talking about. And then in an emergency, if you're at home, you have access to all of the same information that you would have if you were in your office responding to that event. So
this is essentially a digital form of behind that nursing station. In a worst case scenario, you would much rather have that information distributed throughout your staff for access, distributed to people that may not even be in the building. And we'll explain in a little bit how you can use this application, whether you even have infrastructure services or not. Because while this is a web application and it's web-based, we'll show you that you can back up all of this information on your phone so that all of the information lives on the phone, stays on the phone, and is accessible to you whether you have cell service or not.
Exactly, yes. So once you've uploaded your PDFs from your desktop onto this website and you bookmark it onto your phone, you can download the PDFs and then read everything right on your phone, even if you don't have internet or cell service. So this is a great way to create a kind of a backup system for accessing your operations plans. And I'm still getting some feedback that the audio is going in and out, so we're doing our best. And I'll make sure that we get all of these slides to anyone who is listening today, and make sure that you have everything that you need. So we will move on to the next slide. And let's see. So now we'll talk about some of the new categories that have been added. So if you used the app before, you may have noticed that the category for bomb threat is now gone. I moved all of that information under active shooter and workplace. And then I combined the hot and cold weather categories. I combined internal fires with wildfires. I renamed influenza to infectious disease and water restrictions to utility failure. So this is just so that we can put more information on there while keeping the same number of categories because of how the app is formatted. But again, I tried to cross-reference all of this as much as possible, so you should be able to find everything easier than it was before. So. And then I also have uploaded all of our nursing home incident command forms to the app. So now if you are responding to an event in your building and say you don't have internet, you still can have some kind of electronic fillable PDF form or checklist and put that in every staff member's hands using this app because it's preloaded on there. So I'm pretty excited about that. There's a lot of different forms, so I've tried to make it as easy to use as possible. And we're going to be creating some more videos just for NICS, so stay tuned for that. This is a category that's going to get updated a lot in the next 6 months to a year. We're going to really try to make this app a vehicle for using NICS as much as possible, and make it so that you can get the NICS system into your staff members' hands and use it almost like a live system. That's sort of our end goal. But so take a look at these different categories. I added also a category for staff training. So while I was going through all of these resources, anything that looked like a some kind of activity or like a one-pager or a poster, there's all sorts of cool resources in this category now as well. So if you don't really know where to start on training your staff on EP beyond just those fire drills that you're used to doing, that's a great place to look and get some inspiration. So let's see. I see that we got a couple more questions, so let me just do a check-in. So Antonio asked, how often does a risk assessment tool need to be completed in an ICF DDN? All of the provider types listed under the CMS EP rule, they have to do an annual hazard vulnerability assessment. So you need to do an assessment of your facility, so a facility specific component, and then you also need to reach out to your community and get that community hazard vulnerability assessment. So again, you could contact the city manager's office, you could contact your closest hospital, because hospitals have been doing these HVAs for about 10 years already, so they're pretty good at it. They've got, you know, a plan for that sort of stuff. So definitely just go ahead and ask, or you can Google Cal OES My Hazards, and that'll take you to this website from Cal OES. And just like Google Maps, you can type in your address there or the address of your facility, and it'll pull up a map and it'll plot out all of the fault lines around you, or if you're in a floodplain. So that is kind of a cool way to see and get a start on your HVA as well. And that's a good way to kind of introduce it to your staff members too. You know, show them that website, Cal OES My Hazards, and ask them, you know, what's their personal preparedness plan and what are their local hazards. So that's a great question. Thank you. All right, so jumping back into the webinar here. Okay, and so then our third new update, and this isn't so new. We've been telling people about this a little bit, but this is the first time we're doing it in a webinar. So if you set up an account, you have that password and you have that editing capability of your documents, but what if you want to have your staff be able to see that information as well without being able to edit it? Usually this is like a security concern if an employee leaves or they go to a different competitor and they still have access to maybe your emergency contact list. Now you have the option to create this kind of read-only staff account that's attached to the account you are going to set up or that you already have. And you can change the password at any time so that if you feel like it might be compromised, you can go ahead and change it. And so this little screenshot here on the right that says facility resources, add resource, and then manage read-only user. So you'd click that if you ever want to change the password for your staff account. And we haven't had any instances of somebody like hacking their old account or whatever from their old facility. It's more just somebody accidentally deleted their entire operations plan. So it was definitely more by accident than by anything malicious. But this is a new feature. It makes things a little bit simpler for some, so we'll show you how to do that. And so at this time, if you have not already bookmarked the app, or sorry, the website on your phone, if you pull it up on your phone, you can open up your internet browser, Safari, or whatever you use on Android, and just type in that same URL, dpapp.cahf.org. And then this is a infographic for an iPhone. So if you're using an iPhone, you would go to Safari and type in that URL up there that you see in the top left corner. And then you would click this little rectangular button, which is the bookmarks button, and it'll bring up this menu with a few different options, and you would select add to home screen. Once you do that, it will bring up this image here, which will say add to home, and it'll give you the option to edit the title. So I made it shorter, but you can leave it if you want or title it whatever you want. And then once you do that, it'll just show up on your phone as if it were a regular app. Even though if you click on it, it would technically open up Safari, but it would take you directly to this URL here for our app. So I'm going to show you now how to do it on an Android. If you have any questions or you're having any challenges getting this set up on your iPhone, go ahead and type your question into the question box and I'll look at it before we move on. I'm going to cover how to set up the Android and then answer any questions before we move on. So if you have an Android phone, again, open up your browser and type in this dpapp.cahf.org URL. And then it might depend on what version of the Android OS you are running, but you should be able to select the menu button, which is that rectangular one on the right-hand side at the bottom. Or I've heard that if you select those three dots up at the top of your internet browser, it'll bring up this settings menu, and there should be an option that has install web app. And so once you've selected either menu button and gotten this menu here and found install web app, it should bring up this little dialog box where again you can change the title of how the app will actually appear on your phone. So normally it has this long title, and I just type in DP app so it's shorter. And then it should just show up on your home screen like you see on the right hand image there. So go ahead and give that a shot, and if you have any trouble with that, go ahead and type that into the questions box. I will keep an eye on that if anybody runs into anything. But I'm going to move on to the next slide because it looks like nobody had any trouble with the iPhone. So we'll move on. So now, once you've got it saved onto your phone, and if you haven't already created an account, this is your next step. So your sign-up code, it's just CAHF, lowercase CAHF. And then kind of the important thing here, kind of looking forward, is when you create your account name, also keep in mind that your facility name should look something similar to a username. This is because when you go to generate that staff read-only account, you don't get an option at that time to name it. The system just takes whatever you typed in as your facility name, and it takes those first 20 letters and just mashes them together. And then that's what your staff has to type in when they want to access your operations plan. So just take a minute to kind of write out a username for what you want your staff to use, and then that's what you need to put into the facility name box. So I know here it has some long program name that I put in there. So when I was creating an example, that's what I put in there for facility name because I didn't realize that that's how the system was going to work. So you'll see when I created the account, it'll say that program name there at the top. Okay, great, that looks nice. But when I go to create that staff account, it just took those first two words and mashed them together. So if I had a staff member or a team, you know, Sacramento area doesn't mean anything to them, but that's what I typed in for the facility name. So just make sure when you do that facility name at this stage that it's actually whatever username you want your staff to be using. And if you still need help with that, you can shoot me an email, and just remember it'll cut you off after 20 characters. And then the rest of the sign up information, that'll just be, we just collect your address just so that we know exactly which facility it is, because sometimes there will be multi-chains, or sometimes, you know, an ICF company might have 6 different locations, and it's hard to tell which account is which if we don't have some kind of address for it. But we don't send that to anybody. Nobody sees your personal information or your emails or anything like that. It's all a database through WordPress. So I know in this day and age, you know, it seems every other day there's some company that's getting hacked and all that personal information. Just know that we don't send out your address. We don't send out any of your things that you upload here. It doesn't go anywhere. So that was just a little caveat there. But I want to just reiterate also that when you click this Manage Read Only button, that is where you change the password for your staff account. This Add Resource button, that is where you actually upload your PDFs. And so we will skip ahead to that screenshot here. So when you add a resource, this is pretty straightforward. You'll title it whatever you want. This is the drop-down menu here that'll give you those different categories that you'll see on your homepage for resources. Or if you have a link that you want your staff to have easy access to, you can just basically save important links on here too. So you would just put that in the spot that says website URL. If you type in a description, that just shows up underneath the title whenever your staff would kind of scroll through whatever you've uploaded. All right, I'm going to check the questions pane again, and it looks like everybody is following along and we're having good audio. All right, so let's see. Now it won't move on. There we go. So again, once you've uploaded something and you go back to your kind of your home screen for facility resources for your account, this is what it will appear as. And if you're logged into the kind of main administrator account, you'll have that edit button there. And then if you are under the staff account, you'll just notice that that edit button is not available to them. let's see. So that kind of concludes how to set up the app, the new updates that we've done to it, and that new read-only feature. Again, probably the most active category I'm going to be updating is staff training, because that is something that we're trying to, constantly create more content for you, make it as easy as possible for you to access that. And if anybody has any more questions at this time, we will hang around for maybe another, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes just to make sure that everybody has it set up. And again, the sign-up code, that's just CAHF, CAF, all lowercase. And if you have any further questions, oh, yep, there's that sign-up code again. If you need any more help, you can contact either one of us. If you want to talk about something that's been uploaded to the app, I'm the point person for that. If you want to talk about having a presentation, maybe at your chapter meeting on the DP app or anything chapter related, then Matt Bryant would be your contact for that. So again, we are just going to put the mic on mute and hang around for another 5 minutes in case anyone has a last minute question. And oh, we got one from Eric. Let's see. Will you make the full webinar available for offline review? Yes. So I'm going to edit it so that that chunk of time where there was no audio, I'm going to take that out and clean up the video a little bit, and then it'll go onto YouTube and it'll go onto CAHFdisasterprep.com. I don't know, maybe CAHF.org. I don't know if they want to put it on there, but yes, it'll be free and we'll make sure that everybody gets to see it. No problem. Okay, so like I said, I'm just going to put the mic on mute for a couple minutes. If anyone else has any more questions,